Welcome back. So, if you're anything like us, then you probably don't care about the Game Awards outside of the game reveals. That's the good stuff. But all the pomp, circumstance, the emphasis on Hollywood stars who barely know what a video game is, and of course the titular awards themselves that nobody puts really any stock in whatsoever, why bother with them? We're not going to. We're going to skip all that frivolous stuff and actually get to what we think is important, the games. First up, BioWare, those who I think have got the most to prove. They showed off CG trailers of Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Now, the Dragon Age trailer looked pretty ambitious, big, gorgeous, sprawling city, landscapes, and 2 returning characters from Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, but that's really it. And also, the title is now just Dragon Age, but I think the characters returning more just do show that it's a kind of branding reset rather than a reboot. Now this, of course, marks 2 years since this game was announced. Yeah, 2 years, with nothing to show but some concept art, some grey box footage, and now 2 CG trailers. We honestly can't expect more, since we know the game has been in the depths of development hell at points in time, even recently losing 2 of the company's most important names. That's obviously Casey Hudson and Mark Darrah. Now, those are guys that apparently did leave BioWare on good terms, and they did promise that the series and studio are in good hands. But leaving just before a big announcement, I mean, that does raise questions. Now, even though previously I said that they really needed to show something concrete like gameplay or at least world footage, the user reactions to the trailer generally are pretty damn positive across the board, and I think there's a few reasons why that's no surprise. So, number 1, people love Dragon Age. But this trailer's also given some specific hope, because the voiceover promised a step back from the ancient prophecy and magic hand narrative of the prior game's protagonists, right? All that chosen one stuff. Instead, it talks about how it's your story. And I think that stuff is, just music to RPG fans' ears. That's what I want. I don't want to be the Dragonborn, I just want to be some dude in the world. We've got nothing else to go on, though, so expect radio silence for another bit of time. Mass Effect is basically the same deal. I'll admit it's one that's a bit closer to my heart. They showed a gorgeous CG trailer of space scenery and debris, accompanied by a space travel chatter, complete with Reaper sounds, which are always nice to hear again. But then we zoom down to the planet, and we see, seemingly, Liara finding what appears to be Shepard's buried armor and smiling. Now, to put a few things together here, the hardest difficulty ending of the prior game, if you sort of do everything right, or is it hardest difficulty? I think it's maximum war points or whatever it is, but Shepard gasps, and that's what the last thing you see, even though Shepard is obviously, buried in rubble. Now, what's interesting to me is this doesn't seem to be an excavation site or something like that, which would suggest that, this is relatively recent wreckage and not hundreds and hundreds of years in the future, even though Liara, of course, could live to 1,000 and was, I think, in her, early, double digits in the Mass Effect games. So there's maybe some context. And then, of course, that all happened to triumphant, hopeful music, which is certainly what people need for Mass Effect. But it does say Mass Effect will continue, and that's what a lot of us want to see. We just want it to be good. Now, according to Mike Gamble, who has been Mass Effect producer since Mass Effect 2, there is a lot to piece together from the trailer in terms of details. Past the stuff with Shepard's armor, people also picked up, as an example, the initial shot showing off 2 galaxies, which is, of course, a nod to Andromeda. And technically, Liara would be old enough, such that by the time all of the Andromeda characters reached Andromeda, Liara would be old enough, but still alive. So there is that, but I kind of doubt it's going to be set in the Andromeda sort of timeline. I think this will be more of a direct continuation. Obviously, that's all we know for now, though, and honestly, a CG trailer, that's vaguely promising things, that's a bit trite. We already knew there was a Mass Effect game in the works, right? We knew it would continue, so the trailer is obviously more of a marketing stunt, but I think a successful one, right? People are excited for more Mass Effect, I think, and like with Dragon Age, they are, but I think they're still carefully optimistic. That's how I am. BioWare do have a lot of player trust to build back after Andromeda burnt those bridges, but here's the thing. I would say, hopefully, EA's improved approach under Vince Zampella and Laura Mealy, that can actually bear fruit for years to come. I wouldn't put money on it yet, though, but I will tell you what I would put money on. our Patreon merch. Slick. Yes, this month you will get some gorgeous elfie goodness and the Death Knight class pin. And beyond that, behind the scenes, the daily briefing, our daily news catch-up service goes into your inbox, and a bunch more. I'm soon going to be vlogging our work rebuild. If you're into productivity stuff, apps, workflows, process, you'll have fun with that. Okay, that's Patreon. Massively helpful. Thank you, and let's go. So with BioWare covered, the next big thing is Xbox's The Initiative. And they're an odd bunch. We finally know what they are. So they're purported to be a quadruple-A studio, which we all thought was a little bit strange seeming. And their project is Perfect Dark. Yeah. This was announced with yet another CG trailer, and it's the revival of an N64 classic that is at a very large scale, which is interesting to say the least. It's not the quadruple-A thing that I thought they would be doing. Now, we get some detail on the vision from the developer interview, though. So they say they want to faithfully create what people really think of for Perfect Dark, but for a modern era, with a big, heavy emphasis on the secret agent gameplay and telling a story in ways that Rare couldn't, all the way back in the year 2000. Yeah, now, what a quadruple-A secret agent story-focused game will be, though, we will have to wait to see. Even though it does sound cool. Like with most CG trailers, there is no accompanying time frame, just a vague, we'll share more details in the future, which is what we could expect there. And as great as it is to see developers actually take their time with games, well, time is money, and when you look at the scope of a studio like this, you do just get this too big to fail vibe going on, with hundreds of millions being pumped in to these utterly gigantic studios and projects. Like, the scope of the initiative is mind-boggling. Perfect Dark reimagined to such a huge degree, it feels it feels like it could end up being little more than just Microsoft playing around with the corpse of an IP that they happen to own. I'd say it's a bit weird to me, and I actually think that saying quadruple A, massive budget, new IP would actually be more exciting to people. Moving on, Turtle Rock were one of the only studios under the spotlight to actually come and show people gameplay and a release date, revealing Back 4 Blood, which is essentially Left 4 Dead 3 in all but name. Now, while the game itself was a very poorly kept secret, they did do a really good job of showing off tons of gameplay for it. It doesn't look all that inspired, right? But this is a genre that just needs to be raw co-op fun, and it seems like it could be that. Hopefully, it can fill that Left 4 Dead-shaped hole in many of our hearts, so good luck to them. Now, there were a lot more games announced, and actually some things to be excited about, so let's blast through them. So, Striking Distance, led by the Dead Space creator, is making the scariest game for PC and consoles in the Callisto Protocol. Yeah, it's definitely something where I'm glad to see that EA's brutal murder of Dead Space didn't stick around forever. They were supposedly already supposed to be making a PUBG single-player game, so either this project is set in that universe, or they've maybe changed their minds, or maybe Glenn's passion for horror has just shone through. Next, Flying Wild Hog are making a gothic western shooter called Evil West. Now, based on the trailer without gameplay, it looks focused on stylish, bombastic combat of course, like their Shadow Warrior games, but in a very, very different setting. You know what? Great to see a developer actually find success in its niche, and I'm excited to see what they actually do here. Also, Ark 2 is announced. We don't have much to say about it, other than it was, a long and awkwardly executed trailer with Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's cool, but I don't know, bit weird. Also, though, Disco Elysium, right? That was one of the best games in recent memory, I would say. Breakout star of 2019, and it's getting an extreme amount of dialogue voiced for the Final Cut edition in 2021. Seems neat. Then, Riot's Ruined King revealed some gameplay, showing that Riot really are fully on board with being Riot Games. And, not just Riot Game. This will be actually game number 5 or 6, if you include the spin-off Flash game from years ago. Pretty impressive from them. Okay, Xbox Game Pass had big announcements. Skyrim was coming there, as well as Yakuza 3 through 6. That means that now all 8 of the Yakuza games are on Game Pass, and I'll just say, absolute whale of a time. I know they're games I need to play. Just people absolutely love them, so, what a deal, right? To just be able to go through all of those under the one sub. Then Ghosts and Goblins is getting a remaster for the Switch. It's a great game from, of course, the era of nightmarishly hard arcade games, but importantly, this reveal actually supports a huge set of the leaks from Capcom. So this technically may have announced, well, I guess the entire slate of planned Capcom releases for the next few years, including Dragon's Dogma 2 and a Resident Evil 4 remake. That is, of course, if this ends up confirming those leaks. Then the game festival that accompanies the awards has got a handful of demos available on Steam, and this time GeForce Now explicitly supports those demos, and that basically just means you can play them all on any device without having to download them first, and that's something you can do even on the free plan of GeForce Now. Now, of course, it won't be the best experience ever because it's streamed, but it's a good way for streaming to actually add value instead of it trying to beat, the real deal. Now, there were some further updates and footage from a big swath of indie titles, games like Outriders, Returnal, Crimson Desert, and the reveal of Sephiroth as a new Smash character. Also, then, Master Chief is joining everybody else in Fortnite, along with 2 Walking Dead characters. There was a colossal mismatch of game stuff announced, so I think there was definitely plenty of reason to tune in. It just didn't deliver these updates very efficiently, which is a bit unfortunate. Now, the one benefit that this whole thing did have is bringing many, many views to a single collection of games. So we can only hope that Nier Replicant, Callisto Effect, or Disco Elysium can actually, grab the attention of the masses of people who, tuned in to get an update on Fortnite. Sadly, there was no Elden Ring, though. There's a lot of rumors there. The Elden Ring sub is a little bit sad right now. So that's a little bit unfortunate. And to kick us while we're down, it even won Most Anticipated Game. So where is it from, Soft? We would love to know. Let's take a step back and look at the event. If you want salt, this is where you're going to find it. Most of the games here had a few minutes dedicated to them, but the show took over 3 hours, thanks to a lot of what I would call fluff. Now, performances of original game music, right, that gets a bit of a pass, but most of the Game Awards feels like the worst of old E3 conferences. I genuinely don't think Jeff Keighley puts a good show on. Remember when Microsoft would just bring a car out on stage and no one would care? That's what so much of the Game Awards actually felt like. I mean, a prime example, Joel sang a Pearl Jam song, The Last of Us 2, so Jeff got the Pearl Jam frontman to sing it for the Game Awards, even though it was a bit awkward and phoned in sounding, and most of the YouTube live chat was having a laugh at it and spamming the --skip command. Awkward. The most engaged part of the audience just does not care for this fluff. They are there for games and the people who make games. And the big question then is, why was half of the presenter list just Hollywood actors who look like they had no idea what a video game was? The Game Awards engages in what we can only really just call California-based clout hunting. It's embarrassing. And it's like Jeff is trying to flex on how cool gaming is and how it stands toe-to-toe with movies. Guess what, Jeff? We don't have to do that. This is a year where games basically quadrupled the movie industry revenue. They should be coming to us. Screw him. We should be celebrating what makes games special, instead of just giving platitudes with some awards and then letting some Hollywood actors give, almost every other award to The Last of Us Part 2. Funny enough, a game that has, I'd say, such a laughably childish narrative in its depth and complexity that I don't think it would do particularly well if it was, trying to be the Oscar bait that I guess it was trying to be for video games. Awkward. Though I guess it does make sense, the Game Awards, what are they trying to do? Ape Hollywood, got a bunch of Hollywood people in? Naughty Dog, what do they try to do? Ape movies. Yeah, Jeff Keighley advertises the Game Awards as a celebration of games. And then he gets Christopher Nolan, who, I do like, but he's got nothing to do with the games industry. Why is Christopher Nolan handing out Game of the Year? What are you doing, Jeff? It feels disingenuous. It feels like, as we just said, clout chasing. Then the awards themselves. They don't matter. Why do you care about them? Why do we care about them? Why does anyone care about them? They just don't matter. There's not much need to know about them. They're not special. The panel who decides on, this stuff is primarily a collection of games media outlets, and it follows all the patterns you would expect. Yeah, The Last of Us Part 2 won 7 out of 10 awards it was nominated for, including Best Narrative, Best Direction, and Game of the Year. There was more than some backlash to that, we can say. The conversation obviously then swung to crunch, some people saying that a game built off the back of extreme crunch shouldn't be eligible for an award. I think that's maybe going beyond the scope of what some awards are, though you could maybe say that best direction in a game, there's quite a lot to being the director of a game, and perhaps the running of the operation is a part of that. And then, of course, you had other people just disagreeing that the game should get those awards based on, its own merits versus other competitors. And certainly if you want, to talk about who should win a narrative award, I think you can look at the indie space and find just better use of video games as a medium to tell a narrative. But honestly, this is just why we should largely ignore these results. There's a clear schism between games media and what most customers actually value, and I think that's just being made more and more obvious this year. All in all, the Game Awards is just a big influence stunt. It draws in millions of views, but it comes across as style and advertisement, not substance. Got plenty of announcements, and it fits a good spot in December to counter, E3 and Gamescom, but the ever-growing focus in trying to be like Hollywood and, awards that, like the Oscars, that people, are just losing clout as the years go on. It's a losing game. Why are we trying to mimic the old? We're games. We're new. We're the new thing. At least we got a ton of cool games news. I'll say that much. But that said, Jeff Keighley, you know what? I'm as time goes on, I'm just more and more down on him. Fair enough. Dude's trying, but you know what? I think he could be a lot more innovative. I think he could actually do things that are great for games. The festivals, right? That I suppose he's had quite a large bit in getting going. Those festivals are great. The demos and stuff like that. How about that innovative thinking is applied to how you can actually put on a games award show that is games first for a games audience, instead of just Hollywood clout chasing. I don't know. It was a bit embarrassing. So there you go. That's our take on the Game Awards, the games, and then, the acid-drenched bit at the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to know what you think, though, about all of this stuff, especially the awards themselves. Are you tired of this stuff as much as we are? Do let me know. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.